Hello and welcome to episode number 55 of the Board Game Barrage podcast. If you're counting, and we are, this is the 1-year anniversary spectacular.
Seems like 10 years.
Yeah.
We have all aged 10 years together
in the past year.
in the space of 1 year. 55 recordings we've done together, boys.
It's amazing.
It is nuts.
If you told me back then that I'd be able to survive 55 recordings with two of you, I would never have believed it.
You know, it's funny because we set up the recording equipment in a new room today, and somehow the chairs have once again been set up in a 2 versus 1 formation.
Right.
The two of you looking at me while I look at you.
So it's a triangle. So is that what you were going for?
Don't play games with me, Neil. I know. Board Game Barrage, for those who are new or just joining us, is a podcast that formed 1 year ago. We are just a group of friends living out in Los Angeles, living out our board game dreams together.
Our board game dreams.
With each other.
Right.
Today on the Board Game Barrage podcast, as always, we will cover the games that we have played recently. And then our featured topic today is another dip into the mailbag. A lot of our questions are coming from our Discord group, which you can find at boardgamebarrage.com/Discord. So if you want to join a lively discussion and use the red tank emoji, go ahead and join us on the Discord.
I said this before on Twitter. This is now my favorite place to talk about board games.
Yeah.
I mean that. It's such a bustling conversation. Lots
it's
of
a really
cool
positive,
opinions.
friendly, fun group for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
It's a little hard when some of the participants are so wrong in their board game opinions.
Okay.
And I'm just itching to type, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to upset these people. Stop talking about viticulture. One thing we like to do on the podcast is read reviews. So this review comes from Jason on Facebook. I stumbled on their podcast a couple of months ago on Google Play, even with all the Biblios talk.
Even with.
I like that.
Especially because of, I think is what he meant to.
In parentheses, I need to see about this sometime. No, you don't, Jason. This is a very entertaining group of guys that not only talk about the games, but delve into topics you may not have considered about some different aspects with gaming. I recommend giving them a listen. I'd give 5 stars, but there's only 3 of them. ... Sorry, dad joke. I'll see myself out now. I didn't even get that it was a joke until he identified it as a joke. But I'm reading 5 stars.
Yes.
Is what I stopped.
I think that's... Yeah.
I'd give 5 stars. Thank you, Jason.
Right.
We love it when you send in reviews, when you email us some of your comments and thoughts and feedback at boardgamebarrage@gmail.com. But it helps the podcast out so much when you share it with your friends, when you share it with your game groups, and when you leave reviews for us on Apple Podcasts or Facebook or wherever else you find us. And once again, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Instagram, and you can find us on our website, boardgamebarrage.com.
Or the Discord channel, boardgamebarrage.com/Discord.
Just private message me if you want a secret invitation to my secret section of the said Discord.
You do not want to be anywhere near his secret section, believe me.
So why don't we jump right into board games? Why we're all here and our board game dreams.
And our meeple fantasies. I don't know.
You know, I really like meeples. Okay, I thought that I hated them. What I realized is that I hate the name meeple.
Yeah, that's fair.
I abhor it.
That's totally fair.
I actually really enjoy, and there's a little bit of nostalgia, and I'm not sure for what game, but something about a game that comes with a lot of meeples.
Right.
I am in love.
Scratches like a nostalgia.
I picked up my own copy of Keyflower because I've just played a bunch of other people, and this is just a bag of meeples.
Sure.
That's 80% of the components in this game.
Right.
I was
Feels
just
good.
smiling.
Yeah.
It just feels, you're exactly right. It just feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it in El Grande with the tiny little meeples.
Yes.
That was my favorite.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, Neelan, what games have you been playing this week?
I have been playing the Quacks of Quedlinburg. This is from Wolfgang Warsch, I think that's how you pronounce it. He is the designer of Illusion and The Mind, which are both games we've praised a lot in the past. The Quacks of Quedlinburg came to our attention because it was the Kennerspiel winner from last year. This is the German Spiel des Jahres Game of the Year Awards. So that's a pretty prestigious award, pretty well regarded in the community. And we wanted to check this out. It's been getting a lot of buzz. And we love the designer. I mean, if this is good, then he's 3 for 3 in 1 year alone, which is
up-and-coming designer.
crazy. Yeah, up-and-coming designer Wolfgang Bosch.
You know, we got crap for that on Twitter.
Wait,
about not knowing about Ian O'Toole.
I knew about him.
You
He's
lowered our
up-and-coming.
street.
He's up and coming.
Okay.
Somebody tell me he's not up and coming.
We're changing definitions now.
Okay. No, it's perfectly valid.
Upcoming designer Wolfgang Bosch has given us Quacks of Quedlinburg. This is a push-your-luck game, pretty much a pure push-your-luck. There's a little bit of engine building. There's a bag building component to this. But the premise is that you are doctors in some sort of medieval time making potions, and you have these ingredients, and you start your bag with a collection of them, and you pull one out from your bag, and you place it in your board, and that advances you 1, 2, or 4 spaces along your board. And each of them also has a little sort of secondary effect. Like one may let you pull another ingredient from your bag. One might let you sort of get another victory point if you get enough of them in your turn. Some of them might be you're trying to beat the other players for how many you have. So there's different incentives to collect different amounts of them. And you keep going until you get a sum total of 7 of the white ingredients. These are the ingredients that cause your potion to bubble over and explode. So if you get over 7, your round is over and you have to stop. Otherwise, you can keep going as long as you want to. So there's this press your luck element to it. Like if you're like on the brink, you're maybe 6 points into the white. You're thinking like, well, I could pull the one that will pull me over. Otherwise, I might get a few more points.
Yeah, we were talking about games that are similar to this, like we were talking about other push your luck games, and obviously one of the top comparisons to make would be Ink and Gold, which is a pure push your luck game, maybe the purest push your luck game. And we were talking about the pros and cons or weighing the two games, and I was saying, and I think Neil and Lisa agreed, that the later stages of Ink and Gold, while the game moves fast and it is a pure push your luck game, if somebody gets a big lead in Ink and Gold, the last stages can be just like a kamikaze, just like there's no reason to play with any caution at all. You just have to keep going for it because you know that if you don't go for broke, so it makes for sort of a less fun game sometimes. I think I've had more than one game of Ink and Gold where the last couple rounds felt a little just crazy. And also the game improves because of the engine building, because in the final couple rounds you've built up a bag that will unlock a whole bunch of cool powers that start stacking on each other or get stronger and stronger. So in the first couple rounds your bag is pretty plain. You're only moving a couple spaces around the board, but at the end you've got all these like little tokens that unlock other things or like move your token up along the board exponentially. So your bag is much stronger at the end, so it feels like
you built to something.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think the good news is that the stronger tactician won out in the end.
And in our game, too. The stronger player won.
Oh, so Neelan doesn't know his strategies. This is very, very silly. You have to accept that as a premise because you could be in the 3rd or 4th round and just pull 4 white chits and you're out of the round and you get nothing. You lose. Do not pass go. Actually, you do get something, but
But that's sort of what you expect out of a like push your luck game. That's going to be silly. Like, push your luck games generally, if it's a big part of the game, it's the most strategic player is not necessarily going to win a game like that. There's a lot of gambling in a game like that.
I enjoyed it a lot. I think who is it for is my question, because I'm not 100% sure I could play it with my mother because there's like 7 different types of chits. I think I could get her there, but I think she'd question why we aren't playing No Thanks or something.
Sure, that's fair.
Or Ink and Gold, for that matter. Like, what are we gaining by playing this? But in the context of us as a party filler type game, I think it works really well for extreme gamers. Like heavy Euro gamers will want to use this as their light filler party game.
Yeah.
Cool. Mark, what games have you been playing this week?
I played Forum Trajanum, or however you pronounce it, one of the new Feld games. Kellen is shaking his head at me, and he is totally justified in that because I want Kellen to play this because I've said this before for another game. I can't remember which one it was, but I can't imagine a game that Kellen would like less than this game. And I want to also caveat this. I think this is the 3rd time I'm using this caveat, but I had a terrible game of this. So my view is perhaps colored by it, but I'm going to try to be as fair as possible. So Forum Trajanum, again, his latest Feld. It is a point salad. I hope you like your salads, and I hope you like them big because this is a big point salad. A lot of ingredients, a lot of salad. So Forum Trajanum, the main mechanism of the game is you have a player board with a number of chits on them which are face down. You select 2 on your turn, look at them, and on the other side, when you reveal them to yourself, they have usually 2 goods or 2 actions that you can take or 2 resources that you can get. You keep one, you give one to the player to your right, you obviously are going to receive one from the player to your left, and of the two that you now have, you select one, and those are the resources you're getting. And you're getting these resources, and as you're taking these chits off of your own player board, they're revealing spaces, and you can build buildings on those spaces, which move you up tracks. So this game has a bunch of tracks on it, tracks all over the place. This game, of the Feld games, the one that it feels the closest to is Trajan. Form Trajan and Trajan. No surprise that they're similar, but Trajan feels like a game, and I like Trajan a lot, but it's sort of like a collection of a bunch of mini games. There's a bunch of different disparate spaces on the board, and in each of them, you're sort of doing something different. Form Trajanum has the same sort of thing. There's area control thing in the center. There's a number of different tracks. On your own board, you're building buildings on your board, and depending on where the buildings are, you're scoring points. Now that I mentioned scoring points, you are scoring points all over the place. There's 1s, 2s, and 3s left and right. You cannot move a finger without scoring at least 1 point.
I just imagining like at the start of your turn,
right?
Gain
Get
1
a point. Right, exactly.
Discard your cards at the end of the turn.
Get a point. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of different things going on in terms of scoring points. There are a number of tracks that you can get based on the types of buildings you build on your board. There is, again, an area control sort of area majority thing in the center of the board. There are powers you can unlock on your own board. The game is 3 rounds. Each round there is a pattern that you're trying to match on your board. So it may be like, have 3 different colored buildings on your board in a line or something. And that'll allow you to score, again, more points. I like Feld games quite a bit. And I like point salad games. I'm all for point salad games. I like Trajan a lot. I like Castles Burgundy a lot.
You're a healthy boy.
I'm a healthy boy. I eat my salad. But this was too much salad. I don't know. I want to play it again. Again, I didn't have a good play of this. And one thing that sort of bugs me about this game a little bit is the sort of randomness, because you're pulling these chits and you have no idea what they are until you look at them. And there's some planning, but there's that randomness of like the resources you're getting based on luck. It's sort of like frustrating for a game that's so interlocking. I think my opinion of this game will improve upon further plays, but it's a game that I think you have to be a Feld fan. You have to be a fan of like point salad, tracks on tracks, sort of that whole mechanism thing. And you have to be willing to play it a couple times. I don't think this game achieves its height in its first game because there's so many interconnected, interlocking parts that it felt on first blush to me that it was too much. It was just a little too much of the like, get a point for this and get a point for that. And it just like, I'm all for it, but it just was a little too bloated, maybe.
Do you want to play it a second time?
I do want to play it a second time. Yeah, for all the negatives, I do want to play a second time just because I am a fan of Feld games, and I think he designs games, in a way that I like, and the games are sound, I think, although I was not a fan of Merlin at all. But I do want to play this again because I trust that all the interlockedness is a sign of a sound game. It just, on the first blush, it just felt bloated.
You know how they say that we all need to stop eating beef for global warming, right?
Right.
Because it's not the company's fault for making the beef.
Right.
It's our fault for eating it because what the consumer demands, the companies make, the corporations make. Right. Stop buying these games.
Okay, right.
Because we don't want them out in the world. All of you listeners,
you certainly don't want them in the world. I will totally
say no to spreadsheets.
Agree to that. Say no to spreadsheets, right?
Say no to salad. Same acronym. Keep eating beef. No, the last part, I understand why you have that position, but I still love beef. I'm sorry.
So that is Form Trajanum by Stefan Feld. What?
Well, but it's like your review is, I didn't have fun. It's not a good game, but I'm going to play it again because it's Feld and I trust him.
I think the last part's true. I do trust Feld enough to at least give him his games a second go. And I was playing with 2 other guys who I know enjoyed the game more than I did. One of them is a big-time Feld fan. He actually collects Feld games, and he thought this was, in his opinion, sort of a middling Feld. He didn't say it was a bad one, but the fact that he thought it was middling at least made me feel like maybe my first blush opinion might have been on target. But I want to give it another shot, see if going in with a knowledge of how the game plays improves my opinion of it. But for right now, whereas I had this on a game that I would have like jumped at the chance to trade for or buy, I am now holding off on Forum Trajanum by Stefan Feld.
Cool. The game that I wanted to talk about this week is called Narabi. That is not to be confused with Hanabi, though I'm sure the publisher would like you to get confused, as the games are both card-driven co-op games that feature some deduction elements. Narabi is a card game with a Zen theme where everyone has black or white stones in front of them with numbers on them. And the goal of the game is to trade your stones with the other players so that the numbers are going up sequentially in either direction, left or right. So everyone has a different amount of stones depending on the player count. I think in this game that we played, there were 3 stones in front of us. And what's interesting is that each card has a sleeve on it, and on the back of that card is another card that has a rule. So on your turn, all you get to do is you must swap one of your stones, but you have 3 restrictions. And those restrictions are specific to the card. So for example, one of the restrictions could be switch this stone with a dark stone. So you can literally then switch that stone with half of the other stones at the table, but you can't tell anyone else at the table what the restriction is that you're up against. Another restriction could be switch this stone with a higher number. But what's interesting is the restrictions are only in place on your turn because you're the only one who knows what your 3 restrictions are. So the game is a series of trading these stones around. Every turn you take, you lower your score. So the quicker you can get all the stones in order, the more you score points. That is literally the game.
Yeah.
This was cute and clever. I enjoyed it. I am not one for co-ops. I am not one for deduction games.
This sounds a little bit like Zendo.
Yeah, it could be compared to Zendo in that sense. It's much lighter, I think. Yeah. I've actually never played Zendo, but I'm super familiar with the rule set because I've always wanted to try it. But it definitely is evoking that. It's about
trying to figure out what the rules are that your teammates...
Correct, because if you can know that, Neelan has that stone that I gave him last turn that has that rule on it, then he's going to be able to swap it for this stone.
Right.
But you're not really allowed to talk about it.
Right.
Neelan,
and theoretically, as you're getting a stone from another player, you now learn what that stone's restriction is. So you could be gaining knowledge about all the stones gradually. But you don't have that much time to really learn that many of them.
Right, yeah.
So you're all dealing in like partial information, kind of. Like I know only the stones that I've just happened to swap, if I even remember them, let's say. It's a sort of game I like a lot, which is this shared hidden information where you're sort of working with your like subset of the information and you're sort of trying to combine that with other people's subset of the information. I didn't think it really came together, certainly not as well as something like Hanabi did, but I liked it. And I do think the idea of having, you're playing with only a selection of the restrictions, is that right? So every game you're sort of using a different bank of restrictions, which I thought was cool. Yeah, I would do it again. Certainly quick. I mean, it takes 15 minutes? Maybe?
Yeah. Narabi, not to be confused with Hanabi, is a great little activity.
Yeah.
Because the randomness with which a card is assigned, for example, the one we talked about, you can only trade this with a card with a higher number. That might get paired with the highest stone in the game randomly. So already you're severely restricted. In fact, no one can trade that card. And so then the ascending or descending around that card everything has to be based around that card not being able to move, which is funny. But also it makes the scoring in the game less intense, less important because there's randomness inherent with it. Its closest cousin, Hanabi, does have some randomness involved in it, but it does feel like something you work through. In this game, I think you can't really take the scoring that seriously.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's more of an activity. But in terms of sitting around, enjoying a cup of tea and doing this, it's fun. I'm glad I have it, and I'm sure we'll pull it out at least 1 or 2 more times. But if you like co-ops, if you like weird logic, weird deduction, this is fun. I wouldn't be running to the store to pick it up, but I do think there's an audience for this.
Cool.
That is Narabi. We will be at Strategicon this weekend. We'll be at Strategicon on Saturday, trading away our games or making Mark take them for us.
Right.
And we are thinking of gaming at or around Strategicon on Sunday. So if you're interested in playing board games this Sunday, please reach out to us on Discord. That's boardgamebarrage.com/Discord. Or send us an email at boardgamebarrage@gmail.com. We'd like to organize a little thing.
Yeah. We already have some people who are interested, so I think it's going to be happening. So, yeah, reach out.
Is it going to be happening?
It is going to be happening over your dead body.
What?
That's a threat.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
it's the vibe that we got going on right now.
Usually there's something that's related to. It's usually over your own dead body for starters.
Well, I'm not going to kill myself. Why would I do that? See? totally makes sense.
All right. Now let us move on to the mailbag, where we answer your questions. You can
Reach into the mailbag. I want to see you reach into our mailbag.
So if you have questions for us, send them in. Join the Discord. Talk to us about them. We'd love to hear from you. Why don't I go ahead and get started with the first question?
Reaching in. He's reaching in right now, ladies and gentlemen. He's now withdrawing his hand.
I don't know what you want from me. I'm trying to perform. Neelan, what's the...
He's now handing the question to Neelan.
Okay, this next question comes from Alex on our guild. So that's boardgamebarrage.com/guild. There's a discussion there about the podcasts as well. This question says, how much time do you all put into organizing, recording, producing, editing, and sharing Board Game Barrage each week? And what makes all of that investment worth it for you? What we thought we would do is we'd combine this with a question from Marnie. Mark,
Yes.
do you have that?
Yeah, got it right here. So from Marnie on the Discord, she asked if BGB has changed your gaming style / life at all.
Yeah, so like what is the collective impact on our lives as a result of Board Game Barrage being?
These questions felt like great things to do during our 1-year spectacular.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Board Game Barrage runs like an efficient company.
Right. Wild machine.
We all have different roles within the company. Mark is the
I can't wait.
intern. And Neelan is the brains behind the operation, and I'm the CEO. So roughly speaking, we post a couple of Instagram posts a week, maybe 5 tweets a week, a couple of Facebook posts, and then do the Hero podcast. We are exploring doing video content, but need to figure out a way to make that fit into the timeline of our lives, which is busy because we all have jobs, or we think that Mark has a job, but we're still unsure as of yet. So primarily, I think I do a lot of the graphic design, a lot of the web work, as well as the Instagram account, take a lot of the photographs or all of the photographs there. Mark is the podcast guy, podcast editor. And Neelan primarily runs the Twitter account and handles a lot of the back end of getting the podcast ready to air and doing the notes and some of the back end work that honestly I don't even know how to do because he did it the first time and has now proceeded to do it 55 times. Is that a fair summation? Or I feel like you guys probably have a different...
That's
right. Yeah.
Including the CEO part, right?
Right.
Got it.
Right. Well, I was talking to these guys, just this is sort of like a joking aside, but when it comes to trading, I mean, anybody who's listened to this show knows that I love doing trades, be it math or just regular one-to-one trades. A lot of the trade offers that I make now, the replies I get mention that they are listeners to the show, or they see on my profile that we do a podcast and they listen to the show as they're considering the request. So it's made me a little gun shy about being as exacting in my trade requests or my replies or what I try to get from people. So it's softened me up a little bit in terms of trading. So if you're going to trade with me, this is the time to do it.
You're a little more ethical now.
I'm a little more ethical. I wouldn't say I'm ethical, but I'm a little more ethical in trading now. So that's been interesting. It's legitimately been a weird sort of thing.
I think there's been, especially in the last couple of months, especially since we did the top 10s on YouTube, the audience grew pretty substantially. Yeah. Especially seeing the Discord, like having this very one-on-one actual interaction with people that are fans of the show. It's been hugely gratifying. Like
Absolutely.
it's constantly amazing to me that this many people care about what we have to say week to week. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's been great. Like the impact and what we get out of it is just the reward of seeing people who appreciate what we do. Yeah. And it's been hugely gratifying to like get to this point.
I think one of the rewards is having just a very, very small voice of influence.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate the word influencer, so I won't use that word, but to be able to tweet to a designer or a publisher and at least they look and say, oh, we should probably reply to them, has been interesting and helpful to clarify some games, to learn more about upcoming games that maybe not everyone has access to. But I think it's just gratifying to have a voice in a hobby that you're very passionate about. I think, has Board Game Barrage changed the day-to-day for me? It's funny, I think no one's going to believe this, but I now do consider what I'm about to say publicly a little bit more. I consider it more than I would have done in the past. If I have a bad play of a game, I might in years past have gone, this game is trash, no one should buy it. But I'm a little more considered with that thought. And that's not to say, oh, my opinion is so important, but I don't want to unjustly hurt a game that otherwise many people might like. It's like the question when we were talking about Quacks of Quedlinburg, whatever, is like, who is this for, right? And it actually might be for me, but I do think I've been able to better ask that question after this year. Who is this for, as opposed to just saying this is trash.
Right. And when the answer is it's not for me, you still can try to maybe suss out like the good aspects of it or the better points of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that was something I was reminded of as you were talking about Forum Trajanum, because like ordinarily that might not be a game you would revisit, but there's the kind of this idea of like, oh, you're seeing part of what it's doing and you're interested in engaging with that.
Yeah.
I think like those sort of considerations become more and more important to me, where I might not necessarily revisit a game if it had a bad first play. Now there feels like you're saying almost like a responsibility to give everything a little bit more of a measured approach. And that's been interesting. It changes the way you play games as well and think about them, which is good and bad depending how you look at it.
I think one of the sub questions is, has this been worth it?
Right.
Mark?
My answer is no.
That's it. 55. Good run, guys.
1 year.
Yeah.
We're packing
up.
one
and
year.
Done. No, it's absolutely been worth it. And again, Neelan has said this, and I know Callan probably feels the same way, but it's been so cool to see the community grow. That's just been one of the most rewarding things about it, both in the Discord and in the guild. Both those, whenever a topic sort of gains steam in either of those places, it's been really fun to like interact with people and to bounce off ideas and talk about experiences they've had in gaming and their likes and dislikes and stuff like that. Callan was mentioning that he is a member of the Reddit Board Games Discord and how it's like maybe a little bit of a darker sort of place, which really surprised me because our Discord is like such a positive, fun place to go to, and to think that, we're one step away from this what sounds like a cesspool makes me all the more happy and thankful for our listeners and our Discord chatters or whatever you call them. Discorders? Yeah.
I mean, we never did figure out what people who listen to the podcast are called, right? At one point,
right? We had something,
but I don't think it had to do with gourmet, even though I wanted it to. I do think that is an interesting question. Has it been worth it? I think, honestly, if you asked me a year ago, my primary reason for doing it was to hang out with Mark and Neelan more. And from that perspective, it has definitely been worth it. But there were even times as soon as January where we sort of had a State of the Union internally.
Right.
I'm a very goal-driven person.
Yeah.
And I think kind of the self-proclaimed strategist of Board Game Barrage. And I was asking the question like, hey, man, or both of you, hey, mans, if we had just played games 55 times over the past year, would that have been equally or greater impact on our lives? And so there is that balance. There is a question of that. And so I'm always looking to figure out how to expand the podcast, how to get more involved in the community. And so that's something I'm constantly thinking about. So I guess my shout out is if you have any suggestions on how you think we could grow the audience or better be a voice within the board game community, please don't hesitate to reach out at boardgamebarrage@gmail.com. Whether you have fun SEO tactical advice, which we've gotten on the Discord, or more specific stuff about what would make you want to recommend the podcast to your friends more regularly. Because I know you're all suggesting it to your friends. But I kind of am looking for like once or twice a week or a game night, let's say.
Right.
One anecdote related to this topic that I think is interesting that I may have mentioned in the past is I do believe that by playing games with the same group of people more often, your tastes homogenize a little bit. I think that there's a certain joy you get when you are the person who brings a movie to a group of friends and then you all watch it together. And instead of watching the movie, you're kind of watching your friends to see if they like it. And so seeing a game like Archipelago on both of your guys' lists was something that was really exciting to me. And that's kind of silly because obviously I didn't create Archipelago.
Right.
But it's still like that being on your list meant that I had changed your guys' board gaming lives in some small way. And so there's some sense, I think we come closer together in our taste, which is sort of the antithesis of the podcast, the more you play with the same group of people.
Yeah, that's true. There is like that thing about bringing a movie to friends and really wanting them to like it. And the way we sort of do this, like you were saying, you sort of can see that all the way through. You see like the sort of validation at the end where we added Archipelago to our top 50 games. We added Cthulhu Wars to our top 50 games. Certainly Cthulhu Wars I would never have played if you hadn't brought it up as one of your favorite games. So yeah, that is cool. I mean, it's cool that we try to play the newest games, and it's fun to experience that with you guys. Like, hey, this is like the hottest new game. Let's all dive in together and see what it's like. That's been a really fun aspect of it.
And it makes the times where, especially with a new game, where we severely disagree on them all the more interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that doesn't happen necessarily as often, but it's so much more interesting to dive into why necessarily Callan specifically dislikes a game that I love or something like
because
that.
We sort of know when we have those disagreements now that we're sort of looking at it with a critical eye.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we know that if we're going to disagree about a game, we sort of have to back it up. And we know everybody at this table, when we play games, we're playing them like with an eye to discuss them and review them. So it makes for more interesting conversations because we go in with ammunition, basically.
Right. One of the more little fun, like behind the scenes conversations that we have pretty often is, do we think Callan would like this game? And it's kind of fun. You're like second guessing based on his tastes a little bit. Yeah. Is it worth like bringing to his attention?
Right.
Yeah. I think that if you got me in like an irritated or like slightly caffeinated mood, and then just put a camera on my eyes while you were teaching me Forum Trajanum, or whatever, that would be content gold.
Yeah,
people would pay for that.
That'd be awesome.
YouTube Premium.
That's right. Patreon second tier.
Yeah. One other benefit of doing the podcast is randomly getting publishers or designers even who will send us an email and say, "Hey, are you guys interested in checking this out? We'd love for you to take a look at it." And I think this is one of the funniest things in all of board gaming is that, you can't have an impartial review because you got that game for free. And, Mark has over 500 games at his house. I have over 200 games at my house.
Gym.
Oh, your gymnasium,
right.
And honestly, when people say, "Hey, do you want to look at this game? Can we send it to you?" I almost always now ask for the rule book.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I want to at least have, 3/4 of them I then decline.
Yeah.
And say, I don't know that we're going to like this game, so we won't look at it. But that has been an interesting and positive aspect to running the podcast.
Right. I mean, there's this discovery of games that we might not otherwise have heard about because they reach out to us specifically.
So I guess one of the things when you talk about review copies, as I mentioned earlier, is how can you be objective when you're getting review copies of games? And I will just say for myself that I am blessed to be in a financial situation where I could probably buy every game I wanted. That's probably not exactly true, but it's close enough to being true. And I don't believe it impacts my review of a game at all. I think maybe the first game that I ever got sent, I didn't like, and I didn't know how to talk about it. Yeah. And I think that's kind of an interesting relationship that publishers have with content creation people. But, with a game like Hyperspace, my most anticipated game of perhaps the last couple of years, and one of my favorite publishers ever, and their huge hit, Cthulhu Wars, I'm telling you how I feel about it, even though I was given, one of 40 pre-production copies in existence, and I'm defending my negative-ish opinion of the game on Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things that I think we pride ourselves on is really being willing to just talk it out no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, we all have a ton of games already, and we can get games, we could get games on our own. So I don't really ever feel like the need to get these free copies. I don't think it's that big of a benefit necessarily. So I feel like totally comfortable in being completely honest when it comes to games that we review, because if we ever, I don't think we've had a publisher or a designer or anything cut us off or anything, but if they were to, it wouldn't be such a detriment because we've got the whole gym full of games.
Right, exactly. I feel like our time ends up being a much more valuable resource than our access to games. And I just hope that to some extent, like, the work speaks for itself, that we've spoken at length about games that we were excited about that didn't live up to expectations.
Right.
Like Nemesis recently, like they come up all the time.
Yeah.
I do think that it's worth saying that, like, we're more likely to invest time into playing games that we reasonably feel we're going to like. So on balance, it may seem that way, but certainly the games that come up that we've been anticipating that we don't enjoy, we will say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our last mailbag question of the evening.
The hand's going back in the bag.
And
he's rustling it around. He's picked one of the many, and here it is.
I just found out that according to Mark's BGG account, he likes to play with red. Why is he a green tank then? This comes to us from Sherlock Holmes, who's digging around in our BGG profiles, otherwise known as Jonas. Congratulations, Sherlock. You solved a mystery.
Well, my profile is open for anybody. I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide. And the reason that I am green, despite being the true red player at the table, is that I am magnanimous, and I am kind, and I am benevolent. So I have seeded.
It's all strong green traits.
That's right. Exactly.
Did you say you were strong?
Yeah, sure. I didn't say that, but I'll take that. What else?
You did. I think the rule that our game groups have always gone by is that everyone has a color ranking or order, and whoever has been there the longest gets that color.
It's weird because red's my favorite color, and I've been there longer than either of you. And somehow I never got offered the red piece or the red tank.
Tell me more about how you've been at Board Game Barrage longer than I have.
Oh, I see. So this is a Board Game Barrage specific. Okay. That's fair. I think
I wasn't supposed to feel bad. You were supposed to fight me back. I was like, no, come on.
I think one of the things I mentioned this on the guild is that I think given the choice, all of us would play red.
Although I've honestly never seen you play red. I guess
I've
because
never had the opportunity.
Whatever.
Because the group that we play in, there's always been a player that superseded me at red,
right.
And then somehow you chuckleheads showed up and took red from me.
Yeah, although I've never played a game with. Well, I've played a couple games with Kellen where he's gone red, but usually in a game with the three of us, I go red.
Yeah, I just gave up the chance to ever play red.
Right.
So yeah.
So what are our backup colors if we had to change it?
I usually go backup purple, if possible, but I don't really care if it's not red. Then
we might have a double crossover there, bro.
You go purple?
Yeah. Or green, but
'cause
that's also problematic.
Right.
Yeah, mine would orange or yellow given the choice.
Why orange or yellow? Out of curiosity.
I don't know. They just felt
he's
close
always,
to red.
He's always been different, man.
Yeah.
He loves being different.
Right.
And as always, the combination of red, green, and orange is horrific, and you can send all hate mail directly to Neelan for putting us through that.
Looks great. Will we want red, green, and blue? Red, green, and yellow? That's terrible.
What were your choices for colors? Neelan was the one who picked the three colors.
No.
It was
in order we picked colors.
There was a negotiation
Yeah.
aspect where I was trying to force him to be blue.
Oh, I see.
And now blue is our sort of background color.
Got it. I see.
But we also have someone who joined the guild as the purple tank.
Right.
And joined the Discord as
Discord.
purple tank. I'm not sure how we can restrict usernames, but we have an imposter purple tank.
Tanklings. We could have, our listeners should be tanklings.
Ooh.
See, there are enough colors in the rainbow. We can have a whole legion of color tanks. We can have a fuchsia, fuchsia tank.
Yeah, everyone gets a color.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that, but I think we have to reserve some of the more primary colors, like purple tank,
Okay.
for actual contributors.
Right. We have to go like a primary, secondary restriction, but tertiary you guys can have.
Speaking of which, we're actually going to be starting to post some guest reviews on our website, boardgamebarrage.com.
Yes.
And the first one comes to us from a friend, Marnie, who has a review of Werewords that we'll be posting up this week. So you can find that on our website at boardgamebarrage.com. What we'll do is if we have some thoughts on any of the games that a guest reviewer posts, we'll have a little tank icon at the bottom where you can hear our condensed and concise thoughts so you can get our read on a game with a guest reviewer. But if you're interested in contributing to Board Game Barrage at all, go ahead and send us an email at boardgamebarrage@gmail.com and let us know how you'd like to help out because we're all ears.
Yeah, Marnie's also active on the Discord, so you can chat with her there as well.
Thanks so much for everyone for joining us for this, the anniversary spectacular of the Board Game Barrage podcast. If you've listened to every episode, go ahead and join the Discord and let us know.
Yeah.
I'm curious if there's anyone who has listened to every hour we have ever produced.
That is Herculean.
55-ish out. Well, no, not really, but
Ish. I'd say 55.
55-ish hours.
Yeah.
More to come this year. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. I feel like we've said that 100 times this episode, but we love interacting with the community, and that's what it's all about, building that community of board game players, because we always want to play more board games.
Yes.
As always, thanks so much to Heart Society Music for letting us use their song, What's on Your Mind, Kid, from their album Wake the Queens. You can find them at heartsocietymusic.com.
We can finally take off these party hats now.
Yep.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow, I'm so bad. I'm such a bad host. Like, no, this is recording. I'm going to just delete that.
Oh, no,
That's
I need that.
That's staying in.
Hello and welcome to episode number...
Should I go next? Oh, I thought you were going to throw it to me. You're the host.
I am the strongest host that we have here.
The ratings would say otherwise. Have you looked at the ratings when it's green? When it's green, we cash in.
You talking about our downloads?
Yeah. Downloads on green.
Actually, that would be a fun
money.
thing to run, which I know you don't. We don't even give you access to those analytics.
I have access to it. I have access to it.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
When did that happen?
Yeah, it slipped through the cracks.
You gave him access?
I'm looking behind the kimono.
When?
I'm looking through your kimono specifically.
Oh, wow. This is a betrayal.